I'm falling down, I'm shaking, my face is turning blue, my lips are turning blue because of lack of oxygen, and I am urinating.
What is up, everybody? And welcome back to the Schooling Struggle Podcast. It is our belief that the only guarantee in life is that we are all going to struggle. And how we choose to embrace our struggles is what empowers us to become the best versions of ourselves. How's it going? How's it going? My name is Pete, coming to you from Heartland, Vermont. And with me is my friend and co-host Todd Ellis, coming to you from snowy Washington State. What's up, Todd?
Is it snowy here? I had no
I don't
idea.
know. I see snow out your window, I think.
No, you don't. No, you'd see clouds out my window, but there's no snow. It's in the 50s.
Man.
Yeah, but I did hear Tahoe's getting slammed with some snow, but that's a different day.
Wishful thinking for me and for you.
Yeah. Is there snow in Vermont on the ground still?
A little bit. It's been a rainy winter, but
yeah, it's sloppy here as well.
Todd, I'm super excited to launch this idea that you have about an ongoing series called BYOS, Bring Your Own Struggle. We know that the theme of our podcast is that struggle is universal amongst all humans, but I think it's really, really cool that we can bring people on to discuss their unique stories, to share how they are navigating their struggle to kind of empower their life. And our guest tonight is not only our first female guest, but it's our first guest that is coming by way of the West Coast, and that is Natalie Robinson. Natalie is an author. She's a college soccer coach and a former goalkeeper at the college level. She works for Seattle Children's Hospital as an administrator in the Cranial and Facial Center. She's also a marathon runner, and what we are going to learn about Natalie is her love of hot Cheetos.
For sure.
Before we bring Natalie on, I'm just curious to know from your perspective, Todd, why is it that you want to bring Natalie on, or what is it that you want to share about her as we get into our conversation with Natalie?
Well, without ruining too much of what she might have to say about herself, I met Natalie through CrossFit, and it was very interesting to watch things in her life unfold that I had no idea were parts of her story that only came out as she was living her struggle or reliving aspects of her struggle. And I think that's where the biggest connection is. And obviously, we talk about struggle all day, but I think a lot of the points that she's shared with me privately, and I hope maybe she'll have to say here, are very resonant of kind of the themes that we talk about. And I think she has a very interesting and unique way of having endured a lot of the struggle that I think people don't necessarily like to talk about. So.
Yeah, I purposely didn't mention or highlight the struggle in the introduction because I would love for Natalie to share. And without further ado, Natalie Robinson, welcome to the show.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
I met Natalie Robinson at CrossFit 138, our CrossFit gym here in Parkland, Washington. So Natalie shows up one day, as most people do, to our CrossFit door, and she was correct me where I go wrong if I do, Natalie. She was a student at Pacific Lutheran University, which is very close to our CrossFit gym in our neighborhood in Parkland. And I can't remember what you were playing soccer, right? You were a goalie in soccer.
Yes.
Yep. And I believe that you just wanted to get stronger, or some of the things at the PLU weight room maybe weren't going the way that you had hoped. Or tell me about your entry point to CrossFit.
Yeah, so I ended up going to undergrad for about 6 years. And obviously only had 4 years of eligibility for soccer. So when that ended, I was like, oh God, I was like, what now? Like, what's next? How do I like continue physical activity? So decided to do track and field, but in between soccer and learning something completely new, I was like, all right, I need to get stronger. I didn't feel like I'd gotten enough, guidance from the PLU weight room. And so I wasn't confident. Was pretty nervous about walking into CrossFit 138 and was like, who are these super intimidating people? But that's kind of the entry point. And I'm so sad that I don't live in Tacoma anymore because I don't have as much fun. I don't laugh as much. Like that was definitely the highlight for sure. So it's kind of the entry point.
Where are you living now?
I'm up in North Seattle. So kind of more north.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah. Peter, what do you got? Something?
Yeah, so as Todd and I were brainstorming ways that we can discuss the schooling struggle content or the theme of our podcast, which is that struggle is universal amongst all humans, we're really excited to bring people such as Natalie on to share their unique stories and discuss how they have continued to navigate their own struggle in a manner that ultimately empowers them in life. Yeah, so I just want to chime in and say that this is really our first episode of BYOS, Bring Your Own Struggle, and I'm really excited to hear your story.
Yeah, Roger
I
that.
love that. Love that. Love
Cool.
the
So,
bring your own
go ahead.
struggle.
Yeah. So Natalie, you supplied us like with, well, at least me, like with a list of all kinds of things, and I know a little bit of background about you. Natalie is also an accomplished author. She has a book about some of her struggles that she wrote, and favored me with a hand with an autographed copy because it's bad to the bone.
What's the name of the book?
It's called "Behind: A Memoir of a Broken Brain and the Person Behind It."
So now,
Yep.
what do you want the listeners to know about the broken brain?
Probably that looking back in hindsight, I almost regret using the word broken brain, because I think that's a label that's negative in nature. And I think that in the process of writing and then publishing and then possibly questionably regretting the language use, I mean, that it was a broken brain if you're going to compare it to someone who doesn't have a seizure disorder and epilepsy, which is what the book kind of surrounds and the struggle it surrounds. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's just my brain. And I think that my brain's pretty damn cool. And so I don't think it's broken. I just think I have to learn how to do things a little differently. And I almost can leverage that for strength. So it's all about kind of figuring out that process and that journey. Um, so yeah, I would tell people the broken brain, not so broken, but it's a process to get to understanding what that really means, I think.
So when you say broken brain, is that in reference to a battle with seizures and epilepsy?
It is, yeah. That's kind of what I felt. I felt like I wasn't, I kept comparing myself to other people. So I was like, you know, I can't learn things as fast. I'm not doing well in school. Kind of almost failing classes. Like I feel like my brain's not working. These medications and all of that kept the one. It just broken like fit at the time. So that's just what I used and referenced.
So I'm curious if you could take us back to, I'm not even going to pick an age or a time. I'm going to ask you to do that and share with us kind of a little background on it or a story that might give us some clarity on what it is the struggle you're dealing with. And no detail is too small, like what was the color of the toothpaste you used the morning that you want to share about. Take us deep into that struggles. I'd be curious to know.
That's a good question. I'm gonna sit with that for a second to think about which one I want to dive into, because my struggle is really epilepsy and seizures. And
That's what I'm
okay,
trying to get at is, yeah, take us into that world if you could.
right, okay. So I'll take you into that world, and I'll start with it started, and it wasn't actually the seizure itself. It was a really impactful moment, and I was probably 16, 17 years old. Pretty little scrawny athlete. I was playing youth soccer, and this was a huge college showcase down in Oregon. And it's so funny because I can remember, you get hyped for these games, and I'm in the car, and I'm like, this is the Olympics for me. Like I'm getting so hyped up, and I was listening to Left Lane by Chris Webby, and every time I hear that song from now on, I it takes me back to that moment. And during that game, it was the second half of our third game that tournament. And as a goalkeeper, you're kind of more susceptible to hitting other people's body parts, because you're on the ground, you're up in the air, you're kind of all over the place. You're not just using your feet. So my hands and head they can get low to the ground sometimes. Um, and that day was honestly what started all of this, and I didn't know it at the time. But I had gone down for a one-on-one, which in soccer, the forward has the ball, they're dribbling at you, they're past your team, so you're the only thing standing between a goal and the other team's forward. And she was dribbling I saw a moment, so I came out and I slid with my head down, my hands down, trying to jump on this ball, which I did. And I mean, I have a video of it because my dad videoed every single one of my youth soccer games, and it's traumatic. And this girl's knee went right into the center of my forehead, and then my head rocked back and hit the back of the turf, and I was out. I don't remember that game. I don't remember getting off the field into the car. And my parents had taken me to a hospital because they were like, "You have a really bad concussion. Like, you lost consciousness." I guess I was screaming when I was between on the field and to my parents' car and just crying, and I had no recollection of that. And it was the one thing I do know is I was asking like what happened. So I would be like, "Hey Todd, what happened?" And you would be like, you got hit in the head, that you have a concussion." And then a minute later I'd be like, "Well, Todd, what happened?"
Hmm.
And had no idea what was happening. Um, and so that was, and in hindsight, that was the event that kind of triggered the grand mal seizure activity that I started having a few years later. Um,
So,
and
so prior to that incident, no sign of any type of seizure leading up to that.
not that I was aware of. So yeah,
Interesting. And that I didn't introduce you correctly. What's your age now, if you don't
so
mind my asking?
currently 26. You
Okay,
know,
so this is
really,
10 years
really
ago
old, yeah.
ish. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So that's probably scary, huh? So what, your parents are probably like, okay, well, we got a long road to hoe here, right?
So
Oh yeah.
you go to the doctors. You go straight from the field to the doctor,
Mhm.
and what do you find out there?
Yeah, they did a CT scan because I think every emergency room doctor, when they just don't know and you're having head symptoms, they're like, we need to make sure there's no bleed. So I did a CT, and I don't remember any of that, but they said it was good, that I just had a concussion. Um, so I basically everything went back to normal, whatever that term means, normal life. I did need to have a lot of accommodations in school. And after that concussion, I dealt with post concussive syndrome for 9 months when I got back to Washington after that tournament. And I had migraines and headaches that were just excruciatingly painful, and like they never stopped. And that's kind of when I was like, I don't know anyone who's in pain all the time. I don't think I'm supposed to feel like this. And so that's when I did seek care at Seattle Children's for a little bit, and they tried to help with that post concussive syndrome. But the headaches never really went away. And so that was my one connection to, yeah, I think I can feel a little bit better, like there's something going on.
Hmm. Interesting. And then from there, so that probably all took a couple weeks for them to figure out you've had a concussion, and then you're like, no, I'm going to live through this pain now for forever. I need to get some help. So after that point, then how did things unravel, or was it just you said you kind of went back to normal, except for now you're living with this constant nagging pain? So did you get that taken care of, or like what were the next steps along your path?
Right. So I almost dismissed the headaches. I think when people, I think it's, I want to make sure I'm phrasing this right, because I definitely don't talk to myself now the way that young girl talked to herself. And so I think when you're saying like, I'm in pain all the time, but you still show up to school, and you're on the soccer team, and you're still, doing rehab for your concussion, like I think it's hard for other people to recognize that. And so sometimes it almost diminishes, like, am I really in this much pain?
Hmm.
um and so
Makes
I
you
think that,
question it, right?
right, yeah, and so I think that made me not seek care as soon as I should have. And honestly, it was like the first time I sought care for seizure symptoms, or when my doctor was like, hey, these headaches are more seizure like, was when I was a freshman in college. So it was few years, like three
Yeah.
years after that.
Yeah. Was the what's the best way to say it? Was the reluctance to seek help in part like you're carrying the shame of, man, there's something crazy going wrong in my own head. Like I got to hide this and just get back to normal? Or was it more like, I'm just not sure what to do with this thing?
I think it was more of the I'm just not sure what to do with this, and but because I didn't feel shame until the word seizure was ever said to me.
Interesting.
And I think I was, I was functioning um, as a standard to everyone around me. So I was like, oh yeah, I just have to deal with some headaches, take some Tylenol and I'll be fine. Um, and that kind of became my standard of normal.
Can you, just for myself and for the listeners, just define and just share briefly what epilepsy and seizures are based on your experience and from a scientific standpoint, just so as we're having this conversation and where we're going to go forward, that we have a foundation on which to build that from?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great point. Thanks for
Thank you.
bringing that up. So epilepsy it's a brain disorder that causes uncontrollable, unprovoked seizures. And they're essentially sudden surges of abnormal or excessive electrical activity in your brain. And they manifest in a lot of different ways. So, what I said before is I mentioned grand mal, also known as tonic clonic seizures. Those are the ones that you see on, for example, Grey's Anatomy, where the patient is convulsing and tonic clonic rhythms. There's also seizures that can manifest as just blinking and staring off into space. They can look like you're just fidgeting with your shirt, like you're chewing. So there's a lot of different types of seizures and how they manifest based on location of the brain.
So prior to your soccer incident, there you did not have epilepsy, basically, and as a result of that incident, now you are dealing with epilepsy, and it's manifesting in a myriad of seizures.
Yes,
Is that
they're
correct?
manifesting, yep, in grand mal tonic clonic seizures.
Okay. And are you talking like, I mean, as a teacher, I've learned that some of the kids that I've taught have up to 30 or 60 a day, or some just have the big ones that you're talking about where you're laid out, and that only happens once or twice a year.
Right. And that's really dependent on who is having them because and I can tell you when I started having them, I was having multiple a day and multiple times a week. And so like I couldn't even remember what day it was. I didn't know what was going on. Um, and I can tell you that I have been seizure free. Well, I was for 3 years almost, and then I had a breakthrough. So the time between like when you have them, it's just dependent on situation. There's also triggers that can cause them and things like that.
Okay, thank you so much. Is there anything else about epilepsy or seizures that you want to share with us before we kind of get into the nitty gritty of your mindset as you navigated that struggle?
I do. I do want to share that they can be incredibly terrifying to watch. They can be scary if you don't know how to handle them, how to provide care to someone who's handling them. Um, but I would strongly just encourage everyone to reach out to the Epilepsy Foundation and kind of just look up that seizure first aid, as it can really make a difference in somewhat either, like you're saying, like a kid or an athlete that you're coaching. It can really make a difference in the impact that that seizure has.
Cool. Thank you so much, Nat. All right, I'm going to step back and let the two of you continue with your journey down
On the shame wagon.
The shame wagon. I love that.
All
Don't
aboard.
just bring your own don't just bring your own struggle, but throw it on the shame wagon and go full speed ahead.
Yes.
That's
Todd's
the
like, Pete,
one.
Nat has an amazing story. And you get down here and he's asking you a bunch of stuff that has nothing to do with your story. I'm like, I want to get your story so we can set the platform for these conversations.
Sorry. This is why you're the host and I'm just the co-pilot. All right, let's jump on the shame wagon. So it's hard for me because I have some context, and Nat and I have met up at coffee shops, and I never thought that I would have a relationship with Natalie like ours has kind of culminated into. It's very interesting, and so like some of these things I just want to jump to the story and tell what I know, but I'd rather it come from Nat's voice and the place where she feels comfortable telling it. So when we talk about shame, I don't know where you thought about the entry point, Nat, but let's just start from there and go from there.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of entry points, and I think ultimately the starting point is that when a doctor said seizure to me, I was like, I have no idea what this is. I've never heard of this before. I don't even know what's going on with my own body, and I don't know what's happening. And part of seizures are, when you have the grand mal tonic-clonic ones, you wet yourself. So you're not just having a seizure, you're upright, you pop back up, you're good, and then you can keep talking to someone. You can if you have a different type of seizure. But with the ones that I have, I'm falling down, I'm shaking, my face is turning blue, my lips are turning blue because of lack of oxygen, and many times I am urinating. And so it's not just asking those people around me to say, hey, can you help me? Because I have epilepsy and I have seizures and I need some support. It's a huge part of the shame was I don't want to burden other people with asking them, here are the real details. Here's the real part of this, and I need real help with it. You might need to help clean up my, like when I wet myself. And that's even right now, it's like not a super easy thing to say.
Sure.
But there was a lot of shame with that. And I think that shame, it grew inside of me because I didn't know how to communicate it externally. And it really led me to being closed off and shut off. And it hurt because like if the shame wagon, like it's funny, but it's real. Like when you feel shame, it's like, and I use this reference in my book, but it's like a fire on a dry field. Like it just burns up. So a lot of my shame came from recognizing that I did need help because it is a life-threatening medical condition, but it came from not wanting to ask people for help because of the burden, because of feeling like I was too embarrassed to say that, I do wet myself, or, I bite my cheek and there's going to be blood. And, so it's the ugly parts of
Yeah.
a disorder that you don't, want to always plaster on your forehead or a billboard, to other people.
Right.
So
Yeah. So when, and this is at an odd age, right? So you're a freshman in college at this point, or
right, yeah,
thereabouts, right? So even more, now you're in a place where maybe you're not comfortable anyways, and then you've got all these
right,
different mechanisms of life going on, and then to
yeah,
add that, to pile this on top, that only makes matters more worse. So when you say, and I can fully imagine the embarrassment that would go with all of those things, but when you swallow those down, how do you, or how were you able to, or have you been able to, like, set that aside and just like separate those two aspects of yourself, right? Like I have this this disorder, right, that I do these things, and my closest friends will know this is what happens. How do you navigate that, or how do you separate the two so you can operate meaningfully within the middle?
right. And it's so funny as you're thinking that I'm just a very empathetic person and I feel things very deeply. So given this is very near and dear to my heart, it does bring up feelings as I'm hearing us talk or as I'm talking. So, brings emotion to my eyes, because of the people in my life that I've had to ask, and that the little brave that I've had show up in those moments where I've said, hey, I need your help. I've had friends who have, like, it really felt like they were just tearing my heart out because of how hard it was for me to even ask. And I, like, because they saw my needing help as a responsibility. And it's so hard because, part of the issue is we don't educate people enough. And so when someone comes to you with this thing that's scary that they don't understand, of course they might not be comfortable with it. And so I do recognize that, and I try not to be too hard on people who say that they can't do this, even though it hurts when someone's like, hey, Nat, you're a responsibility and I don't want to do this. You can't live with us, or something like that. So I'll tell the story of Leah. We were like really close on the soccer team, and her and I never had a conversation about my seizures. I did have to like email the team and be like, hey guys, we spend a lot of time together. This is a situation. But Leah,
This was
she
a college
goes,
teammate. A college teammate.
yeah, she was at PLU as well. And
Okay.
she she goes, Nat, we've never talked about this. And she goes, how can I help you? I didn't even have to say I need help. She kind of saw that and was like, how can I support you? And I think she kind of broke through the hurt and the shame, or at least she could see it, even if I didn't know how to communicate it. And so she kind of asked me some questions, and that really led me to it made, when you have a conversation, when you can communicate as hard as it is, and you feel the relief off your shoulders,
Yeah.
that's when you're like, oh my God, you're like, I don't have to carry this burden. You like it's the shame. Like, I can, I don't know how to word that, but it's just this feeling that is so relieving. And she really helped me experience that for the first time. That was incredibly powerful.
Hmm.
So when you say it was really difficult to ask my friends or the people around me for help, or Lee says to you, how can I help you? Very specifically, what is the help? How would you answer her question? What is it that you're asking for help? Or what is it that you need for support from the people around you?
So the help is specifically in the context of if I did have a seizure, like what would, her question was, what would I need to do? And so for me, it's, I tell people, you need to just roll me on my side. Don't hold me down. You're going to hurt me more if you try to restrain me. And then just let people know this is usually the time it'll be between like a minute and 2 minutes, or less. And that's great. Hey, I do have a tendency with frontal lobe epilepsy, I do have a tendency to have back-to-back ones. So don't be alarmed. But also, and I see this is where it's hard to ask, because it's like, it's normal to have two, but if I have more than two and I'm not coming out of them, you need to call for help, and call 911. And so it's a lot to put on people, but I think that just comes with education and communicating that.
When Leah asked you those questions, and it was so, what's the word? Cathartic, I guess, is kind of the word. It seems like
Mm-hmm.
there was definitely a turning point there where you're like, oh, thank God somebody put some words in my mouth, and now now the thing is out of the bag. Was it the way that she asked it, or was it just that she asked what you couldn't assemble the question of in your own mind?
I think it was really having someone who could see a need that I had, which was really just to be. I'm going to sit with how to communicate this. Yes, that's essentially how it went. She was like, broke the dam kind of thing.
Yeah.
Uh, and then that was really where I was like, oh gosh, like I can communicate this better. People actually aren't, always just gonna freak out. Like, that's also the narrative that we tell ourselves, is because we're scared. So if we're constantly like restating in our head that, oh, if I say this, or if I ask for this, someone's going to respond this way,
Yeah.
then we're shutting ourselves off, right? So
Yeah. That's awesome. I hear. I can see in you. Actually, I see more of this now than I saw before, about the awareness and like the active. I'm going to sit with this for a minute and figure this out. I like the that's like the pause in real time, because I joke with Peter all the time about I'm going to add a pregnant pause here and see what people freak out, because I'm just going to be quiet, but you do it so eloquently. Peter, did you have some?
I was just going over some of the notes that you shared with us prior to the show, and I'm curious to know. You mentioned struggle and the constant tug of insecurities, confidence, and the fear of change.
mhm.
And I'm curious to know how that has played out in your life journey in navigating this. And you can take it any way you want.
Yeah. So even now, there's still a constant tug between the insecurities that we all have as humans, specific to the struggles we go through, and this confidence. Because so here's the truth is, I wrote a book with, if you want to know what me being 100% transparent is, it's this book. Like, I didn't hold anything back at all. And I haven't read this, and then I read it and I was like, oh my God, I said that like to people. I'm like, oh my God. And it's so funny because, like I said, I had a 3-year controlled, my seizures were controlled. I had not had a seizure for 3 years. I was feeling good. The headaches were gone.
What ages was that?
So that was very recently. It was 23, 24, 25. And then
Okay.
when I was in October, actually, I did have a breakthrough seizure. And I was like, this sucks. Like, I would, because here I am trying to step into this advocacy role of like encouraging other people who are going through seizures, not trying to guide them at all, but just trying to meet them where they are and sit with them and just let them know like you're it's okay whatever you're feeling. And then I had a seizure and I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, my insecurities just came flooding
Mm.
back. And I was like, the negative thoughts, I was like, well, I can't advocate now. I have to be quiet and shy, like I'm embarrassed again. And um, so I've really realized that it's gonna be a lifelong thing. And it's going to be in waves. Um, and I'm not trying to sound like a guru. Like, I have no wisdom. I know nothing at all. I'm just like, what we experience. And so, to bring this back to, I think what that point was coming from is that you change, like our struggles change us. And that can be through, like grief and grieving the person, like grieving Natalie who didn't have any headaches, before the concussion, or grieving Natalie who didn't have to medically withdraw from college for a semester. Um, it's you lose your license when you have a seizure in the state of Washington, a daytime seizure, you lose your license for 6 months. So I didn't get my license until I was, oh, what was I? Like 24,
That's
23.
right. Natalie used to ride her
So,
bike to the CrossFit gym, and I was like, "Why is Natalie always riding her bike to the CrossFit gym?"
well, and like even that, it's like people, if you don't do something that's socially quote unquote normal, people are like, well, why doesn't she ever drive anyone? Like, why is she always carpooling? Like, why do her
Hmm.
parents drive her to games? Why doesn't, and it's like the constant questions also are hard to answer. And then when you get in your head, you don't feel comfortable answering them because you feel like, if you're me anyway, you have 10,000 thoughts and you're like, I don't know how to have them all come out at once, and I don't know which one's most important or holds the most value. So I'm just not going to say any of them. And it's, that's never a good solution. But
No.
yeah, no, not recommend that.
Yeah. What would you say to, or maybe you have, because I know you do, you mentioned advocacy work, and I know you've been doing that. Have people come up to you and perhaps they've read your book, or maybe they just have these questions for you, and they're like, I feel this thing. Did you feel that too? And like, is there a way to equalize, or you said you try not to give guidance or whatnot, but I'm sure it comes up, or maybe it doesn't, and you can tell me it didn't. But um, is there a way that you can help? Like, this was my experience. Here's what happened for me. Here's how I feel like I'm stronger. Does that ever arise, or is that?
Yeah. So, two things with that. One, I think there's so much value in shared experiences, and shared experiences are all unique too. So, I say I have a seizure, and then someone I met at a conference in Nashville goes, "Oh, so you know what this is like?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, yes." And it's this instant. I don't know who this person is. It's just complete strangers. Never met this person before, and it's like, "Oh, so you know what your body feels like when you wake up from a grand mal seizure?" And I'm like, unfortunately, yes. And that's
Yes, I do.
it stems this conversation and this connection that it's so weird. It's just making, like, the way I feel is we can make space and we have platforms with our stories. And so, like, it's great, like this podcast, what you're doing, because you're making space and just allowing other people to step in it and step into that space. Like, some people are going to crawl, some people are going to sprint as fast as they can, right? But, I think it's just making space for other people and letting them approach you, and then just making sure that you're listening. Because even when I'm looking back on my story, like Taylor Lundy. I don't know if I should say her name, but Taylor Lundy. I just said it again. She listened to me like no other friend I have ever had. And she has been like, she's incredibly life-saving. And I love her so much, in the most pure, authentic way, because she listened to me. And I think really when we're going through something, and like part of it's wanting to be heard, that our struggle matters and like what we're experiencing matters. And, even though I was quote unquote on the other side of the worst of my seizures, someone's just going through their first one for the first time. And that's not really something that you forget, but it's something that you can make space for, I think. And I think that's what's valuable about advocacy or all of that.
We talk often on this podcast about the power of relationships and positive connections and forging deep connections with people in our lives. And we have a clinical psychologist who comes on the show. He's going to be coming on the show regularly. And it seems to me from the conversations we've been having with him that regardless of the challenge, the struggle, the physical or mental ailment, his answer seems to be positive connections with other humans. And we are, incredibly social creatures. So I think that all that you just talked about in that regard is really, really fascinating. I'm also incredibly fascinated by just the physiology of the human body and its connection with the mind. And what I'm curious to know, Nat, is there any, I don't even know if strategies is the right word, but aspects that you've implemented into your life to help mitigate some of the seizures? Is there diet, meditation? You don't have to talk about medication if you don't want, but I'm just curious to know what, proactive steps or strategies you need to use to navigate your world.
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think that's a conversation where we can most help other people by just throwing out what works for all of us. So medication wise, I've had a whirlwind experience with medications. Like I have been on, I think, probably 6 or 7 total anti-seizure meds. So they don't all work for you. And I think that's the most important thing to highlight because they all have side effects as well. But thankfully I'm on ones that are targeted towards my frontal lobe, and they've changed my life, to be honest. And so that's super important. That's like a non-negotiable. I just take my meds every day and night. And then sleep is a huge trigger for me. So a lot of what helps is recognizing what hurts. So if I don't sleep, that triggers seizure activity. So I am very consistent and protective of my sleep routine. And then I'm also very, I wasn't the best eater, I guess. Like I was really like, I like my hot Cheetos and stuff. So let's just say I haven't made the healthiest choices in the past. And that's, I still eat my hot Cheetos. I can't give those up. We'll be real there. But, it's kind of just like balancing your diet a little bit more. So really eating healthy foods, which for me, building that relationship with healthy foods stems from like cooking. And that's almost been super therapeutic, which if anyone from my college is listening to this, they're going to be like, Natalie doesn't cook. And be like, she orders Domino's every night. Like, what are you doing? But yeah, so it's just kind of finding things like that work for you. I tried meditation, and Todd has sent me some good meditation. It's great.
Put that on me. I do it everywhere I go.
Nat, he's been pushing it on me too, but go ahead.
Well, I tried it and it was super valuable, but I think there's also a component of consistency, and I kind of think that our needs change, right? And so like fundamental needs like sleep and medicine and food, like food's debatable, the hot Cheetos, but those are kind of standard. For meditation, I find that what my mind needs on a given day is dependent on the season of life I'm in. Like I have not done a CrossFit workout in, oh my God, so long. And you know why? Because I've gotten into running. And I never run. Like that's why I was a goalie. Goalies don't run. Like I didn't sign up for soccer for that. And so running is kind of my meditation right now. So I think that can manifest in different ways. Shout out to Todd for getting me into running a little bit too. Gosh, such a bad influence. I'm just kidding.
Congratulations on your marathon, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. But other than that, I would just say, like you've reinforce like positive relationships and just going back to the people who fill you up and who appreciate you and who you appreciate. And that's probably the main things that have helped.
I have one more question, and then I'm going to let you and Todd chew on whatever it is you want to do to finish out. But I'm curious to know where you are in your life now and what you're up to. For the listeners out there, as I'm peering into your what looks like an office, I see a phone that looks like definitely like a cubicle business phone
It
with a
is.
bunch of medals hanging behind, and I do recognize the Spartan Race medal. So yeah, I'm curious to know what you're up to these days and how your navigation of your seizures and epilepsy plays a role in that.
Yeah. So I'm currently working in a cubicle corporate office. I'm working at Seattle Children's, where we get nice desk phones for our home office. And I love it. And, to be honest, you talk about the relationship building, and I think just full transparency, feeling safe in a workplace to anyone who has epilepsy um, is incredibly important. Like, I have never felt with the leadership right now, I've in my manager, I've never felt so safe or comfortable, like letting them know, like, hey, this is an issue. And I've never felt so supported. So um, just to plug in there for anyone listening who might have epilepsy, don't settle for anything less than that. But I love my job.
Is
I'm
it a
in
children's
school.
hospital?
Yeah, Seattle
Yeah.
Children's, the craniofacial. Um, yeah, and then still down at PLU, finishing up my MBA, which uh, the only thing that hasn't changed since my seizures is that I don't really like the structured sense of school. I love learning. I really do. Like, don't get me wrong, but yeah, school's interesting. Um, but it's great. I love learning. So that's awesome outlet for me. And then I'm coaching goalkeepers at a community college now, which is a blast. And it's super weird when people look at you like, Todd probably, and I don't know, you might do CrossFit too, but if you guys coach CrossFit, people probably look at you all the time and are like, so how do I do this? That's how I feel in coaching college soccer. I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, I'm supposed to know, like, I don't know. Sometimes it's just funny. I'm like, right, okay, I'm not the player anymore, and it's just a weird little life change. But yeah, so really just soccer, school, work. I'm super excited. I'm writing another book.
What?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm partnering with a nonprofit in Chicago. It's about epilepsy again, but kind of just interviewing people's stories about why would you run a marathon to, support this cause. And, like, everyone has unique stories. So I'm just kind of utilizing getting back into writing because I took a break after writing this thing that is a lot of work. And yeah, so that's kind of. Oh, I have a dog too. I have to plug my dog. She's great, so I spend a lot of time with her. But that's Natalie. Yep.
It's awesome. Yeah. How's writing a book?
Did you say
If you feel like
how's writing a book?
yeah, you said that, you have a hard time learning and you feel like you're behind kind of sometimes, and then you go out and read this book. I know when you were like, I wrote a book, I was like, really? Like, you wrote a book? And then it's such an epic book. But how is the process of writing a book in comparison to, or in unison with those things that you just mentioned?
It's so fun. Like, and it's not for, maybe not everyone's like, oh, like, really big into writing, but for me, I think it's overwhelming to be, I want to write a book, right? How do you take this idea and then poof, you have a book, right? How do you do that? So for me, I was spent a lot of what went into this is really just journaling over the years, and it was a lot of questions I had over the years, and it was a lot of unanswered questions by healthcare providers that I was stubborn and I needed to get to the bottom of. So it was just, I kept all these notes, and then I remember one day I have a picture on my phone. So I have closets, and I had this super, is it like butcher paper almost from, I don't know, kind of like near elementary school. And I just ripped a huge piece off, put it over my entire closet, and I drew a line down the middle. And I just color coded some sticky notes. And I was like, I'm going to write a book. These are 6 main themes. And I just stuck them on that almost timeline I was making on my closet that kind of made me look like a crazy person probably. Um, and then I just started making notes under each of them. And so for me, a huge part was like the psychology of identity and belonging. And I was like, who am I? Like, who am I with seizures? Who was I without them? Like, what did that mean? And then I was like, all right, there's a lot of pain and suffering involved in this process that I've learned. And what can I learn about pain and suffering? What stories can I tell to kind of resonate with people? And so at the end of it, I was almost more proud of that little timeline than the book. But I took my journal, dumped it into many drafts, and then I think you just surprise yourself. You're like, wow, okay, we did it. Now what?
What do you got, Pete? I see a question. Oh,
Nope, I'm good. I was peering into your eyes because you're so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I don't even know what to say about that. Just yeah, I feel like we left so much unsaid. The book, I'm going to send you this book because you have to read it now that you've met Natalie.
It's crazy. You think like 45 minutes you can have a good deep conversation, and if you know the person, like obviously you know Nat, you feel like you haven't even scratched the surface.
It's
That's
so
a
funny.
real challenge with this format or this platform that we're doing with these podcasts.
You feel that way too?
Every single time I bring someone on, I'm like, we didn't get to what I was, the depth of what. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, because I was like, did we even talk? I don't even know what happened here. So that's cool. I feel like we could do this 2 or 3 times and kind of dance around kind of the themes of, not only the podcast, but, the themes of bring your own struggle and how everybody struggles and what we learn from those things and are we willing to or not, all the things we always talk about. I guess I'll leave it at, aside from whatever Natalie wants to finish with, like what's next for you? Just this book, and then you're just going to keep on working, or like do you have big plans?
Just this book.
Well, I mean, I didn't know she was going to write the first one. Now she's like, actually, there's another one coming.
I don't know. Like, you know how we change so much? Like, I used to think I don't know is a terrible answer, but I kind of just want to like enjoy where I'm at and then not force something that's not meant for me and just kind of go with the flow. And some people are like, that's a terrible answer. And I'm like, well, that's where I'm at. So we'll see.
I mean, it leaves it open, right? Yeah.
Have you played Uno at all? Can I insert a skip card or reverse?
As long as it's not what's the draw
back
4
on us?
I don't want the draw 4.
Throw it back on us.
Yeah. I don't have anything else, but thank you for coming on. It was great to talk to you, and you get to meet my friend Pete, so that's cool.
Natalie, I really appreciate your openness, your willingness, your authenticity, and all that you shared. I'm super, super grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, and thank you for creating a platform where you highlight struggles. I feel like that's not always the case, and it's something super valuable.
I'm fascinated by people's backstories, and I feel like regardless of the unique struggle that each of us have, we can all learn from each other. And that's the premise of the School and Struggle podcast.
It's awesome.
So with that said, we appreciate your ears. We thank you for your time. We are incredibly grateful for your attention. On behalf of Natalie, Todd, myself, we're the School and Struggle podcast. We are out.
See ya. See you later, Nat.